Welcome back, guys, to my series of X-Men reviews leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine. I've talked about the first X-Men movie. Now we're going to talk about, I think a lot of people could agree, the best X-Men in this trilogy. And that, of course, is X2, X-Men United, or X-Men 2, or X2. I'm going to call it X2 because that's what the title says in the movie. So I'm going to call it X2. Once again, directed by Bryan, still the same cast as the original with some new characters as well. This movie came out in 2003, and once again, this will contain some spoilers. If you have not seen X2, yep, I will talk about some moments that might spoil the movie. Mostly all the X-Men movie reviews, I will talk about some spoilers, but I'm going to keep warning you guys just in case. So yes, spoiler alert, you have been warned. Now, like I said with the first X-Men movie, the first X-Men film I find pretty underrated. It's a good movie that builds up the world of mutants, introduces Charles Xavier's School of the Gifted. Every mutation, there are some good mutation, there are some bad mutation. But I love that the first movie is about prejudice, and I love that the first movie is about a political drama between humans and mutants. And this movie continues that off really, really well. This is a bright example of a superhero sequel that surpasses the original and explores much more elements than the first movie. And like in the first one, it's exploring of Wolverine's past. This movie definitely confirms about Wolverine's past, about Weapon X program. And man, seeing Wolverine's past in this film is really freaking intense in this film. Like, honestly, the flashbacks that Wolverine has in this film, the Weapon X program, trying to basically get his memory back, is a much more better story than X-Men Origins Wolverine in general. Actually, this may make me more mad about X-Men Origins Wolverine, which we'll get to that review very, very soon. But Wolverine's past in this movie, when it's confirmed, it is dark. It's actually kind of brutal in a way, because we introduced to Brian Cox as William Stryker in this movie, who has an involvement with the Weapon X program, and also his aim is to basically bring war between humans and mutants. And I find him a really intimidating villain, because most villains in movies are like overpowering the heroes with their powers and stuff. No, Brian Cox as Stryker is just human, and he is smart, and he knows what he's doing, and you just really love to hate his character, and I think Brian Cox does a really great job as William Stryker in here. We get to explore more of the characters as well, especially Jean Grey in this movie, which will get much more exploration in this film, and Famke Janssen does a really great job in this film. Because you feel very feared for her character for what's to come in the future, and I thought she does a really good job in this film. Yes, there is this really cheesy love triangle between Cyclops and Wolverine and Jean Grey, but from rewatch, I think it's actually done very, very well. It doesn't feel forced or anything. There's a reasoning why Wolverine loves Jean Grey, and there's a reason why Cyclops loves Jean Grey. Even though I do think James Marsden as Cyclops could have been much more better character developed, because in most of the X-Men films that he is in, he's either cut to the background, or his element is just like going to Wolverine going, stay away from my girl. That's basically Cyclops in these movies. I wish Cyclops could have got a bit more development. But this movie does a great job of introducing some new characters as well, especially in my opinion, Nightcrawler, played by Alan Cumming. Some people could compare him to Jar Jar Binks and stuff, being very annoying. I don't get that. Nightcrawler is badass in this film. The opening scene, the White House fight scene, is some of my favorite X-Men moments. That is a really awesome opening scene of this movie. It's a great way of basically introducing, saying, yep, this is going to be a sequel that's going to surpass the original just from that action scene alone. And the action in general is fantastic, from the mansion attack scene, where basically William Stryker interrogates Magneto of telling him where the X-Mansion is. So the mansion attack scene was a lot of fun in this film, with Wolverine just being a badass in that whole entire moment. Like, just from that moment where Wolverine just stabs this guy, saving Bobby Iceman's life, I'm like, yep, this is better than the original in every way.
All right.
Speaking of Bobby, another new character that I find very uncredited to, because yes, he is a love interest in Rogue in this film, and their relationship, they're trying to figure it out because of Rogue's abilities, but I thought Bobby Iceman's story is really tragic in this film, because we get a scene where he goes to his parents' house, basically telling them that he is a mutant. His parents think he's going to some prep school for the gifted, but he didn't tell him that he's a mutant. And when they found out that he is a mutant, in a way, you really hate Bobby's parents in that scene where his mother going, can you try not be a mutant? And even like Bobby's dickhead brother calls the cops on his brother. Basically, the parents discriminate their own son. And that shows the world of expansion with humans and mutation, making humans kind of scared of mutation, thinking they're dangerous, and this movie explores that even more. And once again, Bryan Singer knows how to write a really good story with great characters and expanding the world a lot freaking more. This is definitely longer than the first X-Men movie, and the pacing of X2 is really freaking well done. And back to the action. Let's talk about one of the best X-Men scenes with the White House fight scene, and that is Wolverine versus Lady Deathstrike.
Holy shit.
This scene is fast-paced, it's energetic, and is freaking badass. It's so badass in the film, and I just love Wolverine's reaction to that moment because we think of the same thing too. The action is really well done, the story is much more expanded well, we got a much better villain. I think Magneto is great in the first movie, but I think Brian Cox's villain Stryker is one of those villains you just love to hate, and he does a great job. But another thing I think X2 does a really good job is that they made the villains work together with the heroes in the film, and they did that really freaking well because they both agree on something. They both wanted the same thing. And literally, I find that aspect very interesting, and I thought that's very well done with Magneto and the X-Men have to work together on this. This movie also has some very impactful and emotional moments as well, especially the final scene where Jean Grey sacrifices the heroes from the big flood that basically the lab exploded with, the dam, and her basically using her telekinesis to basically lift the ship up, basically try and get away from this flood, and Jean Grey, of course, sacrifices herself to save the X-Men, and it's a very emotional scene, especially for Cyclops and Wolverine, because they both love Jean Grey. And it ends up very well, setting up her character for The Last Stand, which we will talk about that later, but the way this movie ended, setting up the Phoenix Saga, it's really well done. X2 has some really iconic moments, and the story of the film, the expansion of the film with the characters is really well done, and just the whole entirety of X2, I'm just like, this is the bright example of a superhero sequel that surpasses the original. As much as I love the first film, X2 definitely bring it all. This is definitely my favorite in the original X-Men trilogy. It just does a great job expanding the characters much better, exploring Wolverine's past. The action is much more better. There's a lot of elements that are very intense, emotional, even some funny moments as well. X2 just has everything you needed for a superhero sequel, and it does that very, very well. I know I'm talking about just completely random moments in this review, but I just cannot review this movie without talking about these random moments, because those moments are what made X2 one of the best superhero sequels out there with The Dark Knight and Spider-Man 2.
I was wrong.
So guys, that is my review for X2 X-Men United. Of course, my next review is going to be X-Men The Last Stand. Look forward to that. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching. What do you guys think of X2? Let me know in the comments below. And what is your favorite moment from this movie? Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Keep contact with me. And make sure you guys subscribe to my channel now for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching. And have a nice day.